Hello, everybody, and welcome to tonight's NXT review. We had a pretty crazy NXT. I can't lie, it was actually impactful. We had some things and matches come up for Gold Rush. I think that now was the week to start making matches for Gold Rush, and I think that NXT definitely put the pedal to the metal on that. We have a lot of matches announced for Gold Rush. So that's going to be interesting to see here. So without further ado, let's hop right into it. Make sure to like and subscribe because it really helps out the page. And we do these every single day. We're trying to keep a streak of uploading every day. Hold me to that. We're going to try. As long as WWE, TNA, and AEW keeps producing shows, we'll have reviews up. So let's get right into it. Tomorrow we do have a interview coming up. We have an interview every Wednesday coming out, so be prepared for that. We have Jack Cartwheel tomorrow. So if you're watching this, that's an early sneak peek. Jack Cartwheel is tomorrow, so be ready for that. So, we kicked off the NXT with Tatum Paxley, Izzy Dame, and Lola Vice versus JC Jane, Lainey Reed, and Fallon Henley. Now, during the entrance, we had Izzy Dame look at the title on Tatum's shoulder during the entrance, and that was, we all know the heel turn's eventually coming. We all know that Izzy Dame is eventually going to turn on Tatum Paxley and try to take that title off of her. Do I think she's going to take the title off of her? No, I don't see it right now. I think if WWE builds up Izzy Dame enough where we can believe and it's believable that she could win, maybe. But now there's no significant change in Izzy Dame's character that's going to make me think that she has the power to beat Tatum Paxley. And if you really look at it, nobody in the world thinks that Izzy Dame is better than JC Jane, but Tatum Paxley is the one that beat JC Jane. So that would tell me if Izzy beat Tatum, that Izzy's better than JC. That's just not how it goes. So I don't think Izzy will ever beat Tatum for this title. And if we have anybody more powerful than Tatum Paxley, Izzy's definitely not winning unless we get a full character flip, which is something I've been asking for on this page for a while. I've been asking for an Izzy Dame Tatum in the Izzy Dame character flip because I think that would really help her out. She's involved in a huge storyline right now, but due to her character and the culling, there's nothing she can do. Now, with this match, we would see JC Jane pin Izzy Dame to win, so this could obviously make Tatum Paxley mad, but then we would see in a backstage segment later in the night, Izzy Dame would tell Tatum to move differently in and out of the ring so that she does not hand out random title opportunities to anybody. And now Izzy's telling Tatum to move safely so that she doesn't lose the title. So Tatum Paxley, she responds with saying that she is going to move safely and that she is going to protect her title and that she's not going to hand out opportunities to just anybody. But next week, she has to do one more thing to make her satisfied. We know on this past week, last week on NXT, Tatum Paxley brought back the wheel and brought the request of all the fans wanting the wheel. We knew that we kind of do this every year for Halloween in NXT, and we were skipping out on it. So Tatum Paxley brought it back. It ended up landing on Lola Vice to face. Tatum faced Lola, and we saw Fatal Influence break up the match. But now, we're seeing Izzy kind of tell Tatum some advice. But one thing that doesn't sit right with me, and this would obviously incorporate with the current storyline, I think that how could Izzy Dame be telling Tatum Paxley advice on being champion if she's never been champion? So that's something to pay attention to. Tatum Paxley cannot be giving championship advice if she's never won a championship. I think that's something to pay attention to. Minute details is something we need to be paying attention to. But super glad JC got the pin. Said it on Instagram earlier today as well as on YouTube. JC Jane is the best women's pro wrestler in NXT right now. I don't care who's the champion. I think a close second currently is Blake Monroe. If we're counting Chelsea Green, I'd say Chelsea's third. But I think that Tatum Paxley's far off. If I'm being honest. I think that Tatum Paxley, she's only had 2 good promos. Now, she does deliver every week in the ring, but this is kind of a situation where you got to be good on the mic and in the ring. We saw this kind of sort of same situation with Javon Evans for the longest time. Honestly, going into this year, going into 2025, everybody thought that Javon would just stay the same, but he has brought his mic work up insanely high. So now he is a top-notch superstar because of how high he's brought his mic work. People thought that was going to become an issue in 2025, but it hasn't. He's only increased it. and he's connecting with the fans on a different level rather than an OG veteran on the mic type stuff. So I think that the route that Tatum Paxley, JC Jane, all these people are taking, I don't think nobody touches JC Jane. She's the best on the mic, and she does really good in the ring. So there's nothing better you can get. But yeah, super great opener. Love the match between these two, or these six. And also, it was good to see Fallon Henley get back in in-ring action. We know the last time that we saw a tag match involving these two right here, we saw Tatum Paxley and Izzy Dame face what was going to be Laney Reed and Fallon Henley, but Fallon was hurt at a house show, so JC Jane had to take her spot where she would get pinned. So interesting again, but it was all right. We would see a Kalani Jordan promo after Lei Ying Lee called her out on social media, and we know that Kalani obviously beat Jordan Grace to retain that title, but with cheating. So this right here was technically Kalani Jordan coming out as a heel. I'm going to read it out to you guys. Let me know what y'all think. Kalani came out and she asked why, when Dominic Mysterio and Cody Rhodes cheat to win and retain their title, the fans cheer for them, but whenever she does it, nobody cheers and all they do is boo her. That obviously got her heat. She would tell the crowd to shut up, which is sort of a heel turn. I know y'all are probably like, sort of, she's been heel. I don't think so. Yes, you could have called her being on Team TNA a heel turn. I just don't think so. I think that was a pure misunderstanding, if anything. But now it's completely a heel turn. Because I could have seen that as a miscommunication because we're seeing her be the champion. Yes, a fresh champion at the time of Team TNA versus Team NXT. But even though she's a fresh champion, it doesn't matter. She's still champion of that brand, so she's got to represent that brand. And that's what she did. So, no, the Team TNA women's team did not win. But Kalani put up a good fight and being the last person for Team TNA. So if anything, that says more about NXT being the better brand than TNA for the women's side. So I think that's important to look out for as well. But Kalani, I feel like this was her heel turn. Yes, she's gotten her bags thrown out by the women's NXT locker room and they're telling her, do not come back. But now, this is whenever Kalani's finally embracing the fact that she knows that she is not going back to the locker room. She knows that she's done being in NXT. She knows that, or not done in NXT, but she's done incorporating with the women in NXT. So I feel like this was kind of her embracing the fact and accepting the fact that she is a TNA superstar, which I think is better off for her. I think being a heel is something that people have always been questionable whenever it comes to Kalani Jordan. But I think WWE did their thing with this. Kalani Jordan winning the TNA title. Big shocker. But it was the best decision for Kalani Jordan. But we would also see Kalani go on to turn heel and be a part of Team TNA and go against her former brand and be better than she ever was. This is a Trick Williams 2.0 situation, but just for the women's side. It is a super good decision, and I'm so glad that this is happening. But one thing I do want to mention, Trick Williams, he was the TNA champion whenever Team TNA was going against Team NXT, and he was on the NXT squad. That's because he's been apart for so long. Kalani Jordan, you could definitely say the debates that was the heel turn because she's quite literally turning on the brand she's been fighting for a long time, years now. So now that I speak it, I think that was her heel turn and was obviously a heel turn, but still super interesting to see. So overall, I think Kalani Jordan a heel now. If we didn't know then she obviously is now. But she would get booed the whole turn during this promo. And we would also see Ava make Kalani Jordan face Tyra May Steele in a later match. We're going to go ahead and skip to that match. Tyra May Steele would face Kalani Jordan for the TNA title. This was a technical match, which what else do you expect from a gold medalist in Tyra May Steele? Kalani would end up retaining. All right. A match that I was impressed by. I have not seen a very impressive match from Tyra May Steele, but to be fair, she has not got the opportunity to make anything good out of her time in WWE so far. except for winning season 1 of the women's side of LFG. So that was obviously brought her a lot of hype, as well as being a Olympic gold medalist. But this was her time to shine, and I just feel like that. Normally, I say that I try to hype people up as best as I can. I just don't think this was a great way to start out her run, which she's getting thrown in deep waters. She's getting thrown in the spotlight. But most importantly, she's getting thrown in with a veteran, in Kalani Jordan. Yes, I'm calling her a veteran. She's champ, and she knows what she's doing in the ring, and she has been knowing what she's doing in the ring for the longest time. But yeah, super cool. After the match, Santino Marella would make it official. Kalani Jordan will face Jordan Grace and Lei Ying Lee at Gold Rush in Madison Square Garden. So big match. Big match. And earlier in the night, whenever Ava made the decision to put Kalani versus Tyra, Kalani was using the fact that Ava can't book a match for the TNA title because that title does not belong to NXT. So Santino came out, and which is weird. We keep going back to this Team TNA and Team NXT rivalry, but Santino and Ava were never really far away from each other. They were always pretty good friends. So I think it's cool to see how Santino is coming back to making matches for NXT superstars, but also his champion, so he has to. So very cool. OTM would say that they attacked Hank and Tank last week to win a championship this time around. So they're saying last time they felt like it was not enough. They felt like how their run went was not enough with Jada Parker and all that. They didn't do anything that they feel like was worth it. So now they're coming back and they're winning a championship and taking the titles away from Hank and Tank. Or not away from Hank and Tank, because Hank and Tank aren't champions, but they're gonna just destroy Hank and Tank first and then go win championships. So that's gonna be cool to see. I want to see them go against the Hardys, but I do think Dark State will eventually win those tag titles back, which they should. I like the Hardys as double champs, but right now TNA is a show that is not really available to the average fan. Obviously, everybody watches it that's really into it, but for the people who are just watching week to week and want to watch TNA, it's not really possible. So, unless you have that TV access, but very cool here. I'm glad that OTM's trying to go after the titles because they are a really good tag team. We would see Josh Briggs face El Grande Americano for the Speed Championship. This was a insane match because we're seeing Josh Briggs, or most likely El Grande Americano. He is defending this title ahead of next week's matchup with, the tournament going around. We're having him defend that title. So that's going to be interesting. We know Jasper Troy defeated Axiom, and that's how we're going to get Jasper Troy versus El Grande Americano. Jasper Troy would watch it from the crowd, and which was cool to see because obviously he's his opponent. But You Still Suck chants were going for Briggs, and the whole crowd was behind El Grande Americano. So Americano has the crowd push, so that's going to be interesting to see how they play this out. But overall, El Grande Americano defeated Josh Briggs, and we're heading in to big momentum for El Grande Americano into his match with Jasper Troy next week. So very cool. I do think that Jasper Troy would take the title off of El Americano, but I do think that Speed title is a good presence for Americano on the main roster because I just think that it gives him that aura that he has a championship, even though it doesn't really mean anything. It's still an aura. So love that. And I think that Americano should retain, but it is what it is. I wouldn't be surprised if he does lose the title to Jasper Troy, but very cool segment there. Miles Bourne would go up to Ricky Saints and tell Saints to beat Trick Williams for him next week. So that was weird to see. We know Miles Bourne has had pretty much one good NXT title run, which branched him off from No Quarter Catch Crew, and which also was one of the best rivalries of 2025. So I think personally, with him coming out saying that he was hard of hearing and the build up to Oba, even though he lost and Oba defeated him, I still just think that was one of the best rivalries because it had everyone believing that Miles Bourne was going to win, but he didn't. So it was very cool. This led us into a Trick Williams and Ricky Saints interview backstage. Trick would say that Ricky is not ready to carry NXT on his back like he formerly did. So that was an interesting quote. And we would also see Ricky call out Trick for not being dedicated to NXT. he called out Trick for not being the guy around for NXT and going to TNA and trying to show out there instead of carrying the brand that he started trying to make better. So that was weird. And they started looking for each other at the end of the interview, trying to beat each other up, and they ended up finding each other. They started brawling, but Trick would lay out Ricky with a metal pipe. So I hate it, but it's obviously saying that Ricky's going to retain next week. But I just hope there's an interruption, to be honest. I don't think Trick can afford another loss, but I really want to see Trick Williams as champion. I think that right now, I know we're talking about the best women's and men's superstars. I just think that Trick Williams, it might be a little bit of an unpopular opinion, but he's one of the top dogs either way. I think that Trick Williams is the best men's pro wrestler in NXT. If you really look at him, you really look at how he does things, he's the best. Not the best in the ring, but he's definitely the best on the mic. Nobody can deny that. He's the best on the mic in the men's division in NXT. He just is so good. He has that crowd pop. And yes, now he is not as hated as he was whenever he was TNA champ, but now he's getting the fan pop again, but not near as massive as it used to be. But I'm hoping the whoop that Trick chance can come back eventually, and he can rotate back into a face. But him being a heel right now is the best work he's ever done. So I love this. But I think the next week, it's obviously must win for Ricky Saints to retain the title once again against Trick Williams. But I think it is going to be a sad loss for Trick Williams. I just hope that somebody like a Javon Evans, I don't know, right now I'm blanking. I don't know anybody that could interrupt the match between Trick Williams and Ricky Saints. That's something I would really have to go into the roster and look at. You know, we could obviously say a safe answer like Josh Briggs, because he's everywhere right now. He is literally everywhere. Josh Briggs could interrupt the match, but who else? I don't know of anybody else. I don't know of anybody else who's willing and has been in the storyline to step up to Trick or Ricky. Mostly Ricky. Because if it's a DQ, Ricky's going to keep the title and they're going to go after Ricky. So Ricky's has the target on his back, and they've been trying to play into that narrative with the NXT Championship for the longest time. So I think they'll pull the trigger next week. I think that'll be a big week to watch. Trick versus Ricky. I think that'll have good viewership because big match feel. So excited to see how that turns out next week. Ren Sinclair would face Zarya in the speed tournament. Zarya would end up defeating Ren Sinclair, and she would look at Soul and tell Soul that she's going to bring the title back to Zaruka. So big moment. For a minute, I thought it was like a little bit of a heel turn, but then I started reading her lips, and she was like, I'm going to bring the title back. I think this is really cool. I love the angle of this. Zarya trying to bring the title back. And us also, later in the show, Blake Monroe walks into Ava's office looking for an opponent for Gold Rush on November 18th in Madison Square Garden. And Ava would give Sol Ruka the match that she was supposed to have, but Zarya had to take over, and Zarya ended up losing the title for Blake Monroe, or for Sol Ruka. And Ava would give the match to Sol because she never lost it. And Blake would get a call and say that it was her other half calling for an interview next week. Now, whenever she got a call, at first I was like, is this Zarya? Yes, unpopular opinion, but could that have been Zarya? I still think that that's an option. I still think it's an option. My only reason why I think it's an option is because Zarya is somebody that I think has to get away from Soul at some point. I don't think she can hang around for much longer. I just hope that WWE sees that Zarya cannot hang with Sol Ruka, or she can't be without Sol Ruka. She has to be with Sol. They better not pull the trigger on letting Zarya go without Sol Ruka, because it's going to be not good for Zarya, and it's going to end up to her getting released. I don't want that for her. She is super good. Her character is super good. And she, even though she doesn't really have one, her and Soul's just so good together. And if they break up, it's just going to be one good rivalry with her and Soul, and it's just going to be over just like that. And in the next 4 months, she's going to get released. So I just think unless they make her a dominant force, there's no way they break up. But now Zarya was going after the narrative of her being Speed Champion and Soul being North American Champion again. That would be a full circle moment. Pretty much them just swapping titles. This is all just coming back. to, if this does happen and Soul does win back the title and Zarya does go through with the tournament and win back the speed title for Zaruka, it's pretty much just like we're going back a month and Soul is giving the title to Zarya, giving the speed title to Zarya. And obviously skipping the injury of Soul Ruka during the match on SmackDown with Charlotte Flair and Alexa Bliss. But yeah, I just think that it would be a full circle moment, and I would love to see it, but I just hate the match between Blake and Soul being announced because I don't want Soul to lose, and I don't know how much that would knock off of her aura and her persona, but I'm scared to see how that's going to help or hurt her. I just think that that's something that we're going to be playing with fire, and I just don't want to see it. So Quan Sugars versus Javon Evans would happen. We know last week they would run up on Javon in the locker room after being on the phone with Leon Slater. And during the match, one thing that I saw cool, Quan Sugars would roll out of the ring to catch his breath, and Dark State would throw him back in the ring and tell him to focus. So Dark State really wanted this win. They ended up not getting it because Dark State, the rest of Dark State, figured out that Quan Sugars was in trouble and was 9 times out of 10 not going to win the match. And they ended up trying to take out Javon, but Javon dodged all of them, got back in the ring, and hit Saquon with the top rope maneuver to pin Saquon 1, 2, 3 and win the match. Very good. Very, very good. Love the match. Saquon versus Javon cooked. They pulled it off really well. I was afraid that this would be one of the matches that Javon wouldn't know what to do with another high flyer, but I mean, dude, it was a great match, and I really loved it. So I think this is definitely a +1 for Javon versus Saquon. Very good match. And in the main event, Ethan Page and Chelsea Green would have their celebration for winning the AAA mixed tag titles. So Ethan would say that the reason that people don't like them is because they say things that actually come true, just like them winning the AAA mixed tag team championships. So Ethan will also go on to say that they are going to defend the tag titles against everyone and everybody. We would see Chelsea Green look and say, or Chelsea Green would say Joe, and Ethan would look at the cake, the big old cake behind him, and think that Joe Hendry was in the cake. They would actually say her name, or say his name, and Joe would actually pop up from the main entrance. Joe would end up saying that he wanted a shot at a title, which Ethan would give him a shot at the North American title at Gold Rush, but Joe declined that, and Joe said he wanted a shot at the mixed tag team titles. And this is where things got good. We saw Joe say that obviously he has to have a partner. He says, and Joe's theme plays, and it says, "I believe in THEA Hell." And that was a super cool moment. THEA pops out the cake, and we end up seeing Alba, Chelsea, and Ethan all get pied. And it gets announced that Chelsea Green and Ethan Page will defend the AAA mixed tag titles against THEA Hell and Joe Hendry. Does the reign of Ethan and Chelsea come this early to a close? I don't think so. My prediction now is no. Obviously, that my prediction can change over the next few weeks because WWE is doing a lot right now that is unpredictable. But I think that it is really unpredictable. But I just think that Chelsea and Ethan are going to start being a serious tag team on NXT and even the main roster. This might be a way to creep Ethan Page into the main roster. But I think they're a serious tag team now, and I think they would want to represent a tag team title that is just for them. And it was cool to go have them over to AAA and win those championships. So that was really cool to see. So yeah, I think that is an awesome, awesome way to finish the show and brings a lot of hype going into Gold Rush. So let's see. What all matches do we have? We have Sol Ruka and Blake Monroe. We have obviously Ethan and Chelsea versus Joe and THEA. We have hopefully Zarya winning the championship and going and being in Sol's corner. And obviously, hopefully, Sol wins. But we got Kalani Jordan facing Jordan Grace and Lei Ying Lee at Gold Rush. Looks like that's about it for right now. I'm hoping that we're going to be able to see a title defense from Ricky Saints, but that's still up in the air. But super cool NXT tonight. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode, and I will see y'all boys in the next one. Deuces.